We are talking about Romans 12 through 15. We're still in Romans 12. We're talking about the fact that based on the good news about Christ, we are called to be a countercultural community. This church, the church of Jesus Christ, is called to be a countercultural community. That is, the church of Jesus Christ is supposed to be a subculture whose values and norms of behavior differ substantially from those of mainstream society. We are to no longer conform to the patterns of this world, but we are to be transformed into something completely different. And we've just been talking about how Paul kind of unpacks this. And it started with the fact that we're supposed to think of ourselves with sober judgment. Remember, not too high, not too low. But knowing ourselves isn't about us. Knowing ourselves is knowing what we can bring to bless other people in the family of God. And we don't bring our leftovers, right? Remember, we bring our best. And last week we talked about that this kind of love should be sincere, it should also be true. Where we speak the truth in love with one another. We should honor and love each other regardless of whether or not someone deserves it. That's the kind of love. We love others even if it doesn't feel good for us. We love even if it costs us greatly. Now from there, I think Paul begins to turn his attention to not just this community, but to the world around us. And I'm entitling this first section, Do Good to Bad People. Right? In 14 and 15, he says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. See, what I think by the power of the Holy Spirit, what Paul knew is this, is if he called us to be this countercultural community, if he called us to be different, that what we'd have the habit of doing is creating this bubble where it's us versus the world. And everybody inside our bubble we're good with, and everybody out there. And so he instantly addresses this fact as he says to bless those who persecute you. Bless and don't curse. See, we live in a society of us versus them. It is just the norm. You just need to figure out what camp you're in so you know who to agree with. And then your job then is not only to chill with the ones you agree with, but to help throw stones at those you don't. I mean, our world's made up of liberal versus conservative, women versus men, old versus young, east versus west, the uneducated versus the highly educated, old school versus modern technology, the people versus the government, black versus white, big business versus the little guy, employee versus employers, the country versus the city, socialism versus capitalism, poor versus rich, the religious versus the heathen, good versus bad, the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. See, now you know what camp you're in. And knowing this about us, Paul goes right at, those that are in a different camp, however you define that. The Bible says that we should be a different community. We should be a different people. We should not fall into the us versus them mentality. The word is clear. We're to resist that idea. And those that are different than us, those that are, quote unquote, in a different camp, we are to treat with human decency, but not just that. He doesn't just say, don't be mean to those who persecute you. He says, bless those who persecute you. That's active. That's going out of your way to be a blessing. It's not just do no harm, it's do good to them. And then he actually right away gives us two practical examples. Be happy with those who are happy and mourn with those who mourn. The idea here is pretty clear. When there is your enemy, those who persecute you, maybe there is a spouse who cheated on you and then lied to the authorities and makes sharing children complicated. When something good happens to them, you're supposed to rejoice with them. You're supposed to rejoice with them. When those people at your work who drive you crazy, that have no problem being immoral and prejudicial, and something good happens when they get the promotion they didn't deserve, we're supposed to rejoice with them. That's practical, a blessing. Can you imagine? Right? If you're new here, we have folks on both sides of the aisle. But can you imagine, whatever side of the aisle you're on, when the election comes and it's over, if your side loses, can you imagine sending a note to the other side going, good job. You worked hard. You spread your ideas. And, the American people voted and responded. I didn't vote for you, but I just want to say, good job. Wouldn't that be radical love? I know some of you right now are thinking, I should have stayed home today. The mourn with those who mourn, it means when tragedy strikes, we're not supposed to have the attitude of, I told you so. The most practical thing that example I can express is, you're driving along, or I'm driving along, and I'm maybe a tad over the speed limit, but I'm good. And then all of a sudden, someone zips past me. They're weaving in and out at 20 miles, hour, even faster than everybody else, right? And you're doing your due diligence. You looked in the mirror, it was clear. You begin to move over, and this person zips past you and almost hits you, and you're like, "Ugh." Maybe you're not, but I am, right? And then 5 miles down the line, they got pulled over. And you're like, woohoo, justice. Your pastor just modeled for you the worldly result, the worldly example. God forgive me, because that's what I do often. But according to this, I should look and go, oh man, I know what it's like to get a ticket. I don't know what they're in a hurry for, but especially if they were in a hurry for something that was important and whatnot, it cost you even more time to mourn with them. Rather than, hey, you got your comeuppance. He shifts from this idea to basically, we should have the attitude of striving with harmony with everyone. That should be our goal, to live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, he says, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Don't be conceited. Don't repay evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody. This word that they use for harmony is kind of like living side by side. The best example I can give you is this: you might remember when you're a kid, right? There's two people holding the ends of a rope and they're doing this. Well, if you just walk in, just normal walk in, that's not harmonious. Harmony is you watch the beat, and then you wait for your time, and you go in and you start so the rope can keep going. And the encouragement here is that we, as followers of Christ, as far as we can, we try to live in harmony with those around us, with those in a different camp. And he understands that being able to do that often starts with the way we view ourselves. In other words, if you consider yourself better, smarter, more enlightened, more educated, more whatever than other folks, it's really hard to live in harmony with them. Because while the rope's going, what you want to do is okay, I run in a certain way and I jump at a certain way. You need to change the way you're flipping that rope. Because obviously you're wrong. And he says our attitude, we should not think of ourselves so highly. We should not be proud. And then he goes on to say we should be willing to associate with people of low position. In other words, not only do we think highly of ourselves, but we often look down on others. Again, I don't know what camp that you lie on all those things, but the chances are you look down on folks from the other camp. And that's one of the terrible things about this election is not that people have different ideas. By the way, that's always a good thing. It really is that people have different ideas. It's a good thing. I mean, I don't know how it works in your life and whatnot, but my wife and I see our values are the same, but we see the world differently. And we balance each other out. We're much better together than, at least I was, by myself. The problem is, especially with this election, is that both sides aren't just saying we disagree, they're just throwing names. You know, rather than discussing anything, it's just that it says you obviously are evil because you're racist. You're obviously bad because you're a hater. It's just labels. We're just labeling one another. Nobody's listening. Nobody is willing to associate with those that are in a different camp. But as followers of Christ, we're supposed to be willing. And by the way, willing isn't just, kind of like I showed up at the soup kitchen, I did my time, and then I went home. Willing to associate means treat them like you do your close friends. What do? You don't just show up at your friends', dish out a little bit of food in their home and take off. You invite them to your house. You spend time with them. That's how we're supposed to associate with folks. Don't be conceited. Don't be self-centered, because it's hard to live in harmony with folks when you have a superiority complex. And by the way, he's writing to a lot of religious people whose superior complex is because we got God's word and they don't. Now, obviously, God's word is true, and that's important. Jesus really modeled this wonderfully, how he could do both. And he says, don't repay anyone evil for evil. In other words, don't get involved with this tit for tat. Are you guys familiar with that? It's an English saying, which basically means equivalent retaliation. It says you can't live in harmony with folks if you walk around with your little list, right? And the list says, okay, there's the good and the bad part of the list. The good part of the list is you sent me a gift. Okay, now I owe you a gift. You gave me a Christmas card. Now I owe you a Christmas card. You invited me over for dinner. Now I need to invite you for dinner. You did this for me and I did, right? And or the reverse, right? You insulted me, and so I owe you an insult. You backhanded and undermined me, so I owe you somehow to undermine you, right? And for those of you that are wired like other members of my family that are passive aggressive, just because you don't do it overtly doesn't mean you don't do it. Just get off that seat, come join the rest of us, right? Just because you're sneakier than us doesn't mean you're better. And then he kind of gives us this last idea: be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. In other words, generally when people see your life, do they kind of nod their head and go? They may disagree. And this was the interesting thing about Jesus is that on one hand, he was raising the bar. You cannot read Jesus, and Jesus didn't just show up and go, hey, wherever you're doing, wherever you're at, I'm good with it. He didn't say that. You don't know Jesus if that's your image of him. Read the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5. You know what Jesus does? Jesus shows up and says, hey, you know how you've heard that this is bad? I tell you, if you even just think about it, it's worse. And yet the crowds wanted to hear more. Why? Because there was something that, even though he was raising the bar, when he looked at people, he saw them as people that God loves, as having worth, as worth being loved, as worth his time. He lived in, remember we talked about this last week, he went to their parties. He didn't agree with their lifestyle, but he went to their parties. He lived in harmony with folks. And the people praised him for it, even though they disagreed with him. My wife and I have some dear friends that we love, but philosophically, we're very different. Very different. In a lot of ways, our beliefs aren't just against their beliefs, but they are immoral and what's the word? Neanderthal, right? You get the picture of what I'm saying? But there's a problem. And the problem is they have these beliefs that are smarter, higher, more educated, right? Now, we don't have those beliefs, but when you look at our lives, the people that we disagree with, we show up and serve them. We give our money to help them out when they're in trouble. The people that we stand against, that they're all for, but all they have is ideas. We have a life, and you can see that they're in this quandary. Everybody like this is, except for you guys. They have to say that. Why? Because the love of our life outshines, not by the way, I'm not praising us. This is God in us, trust me. But it outshines their values. And that's what he's saying here is do it in the eyes of everybody. Whatever, when they may go, I don't like what you stand for. I don't believe this God thing. I don't believe in these moral rules. But oh my goodness, look at your life. Do what is right in the eyes of everybody. There's a lot of people that completely disagreed with Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and so on and forth. But it was really hard to criticize those guys. The way they served and laid their lives down, and even the way they spoke about their enemies. He goes on to say, basically, we are to strive for peace with everyone. He says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals upon his head. In other words, if you can live in harmony with folks, then you are ready to live at peace. Now, he does qualify this. He says, if it is possible, and as far as it depends on you. Because the truth is, there are people in this world that no matter what you do, they don't want to live at peace with you. We have brothers and sisters in Christ in other countries who are living their life quietly. They're just trying to provide for their families. And the government or other folks are actively pursuing and persecuting them, even though they're doing their best just to live at peace. And so there's an acknowledgement here that not everyone can be lived at peace with. But on the other hand, he's also not saying, if you can't live at peace with them, then attack. He's not saying that. He's just acknowledging you can give your best effort, and some people just, all right, Jesus did. It's exactly what happened to Jesus. But for us, we need to be determined to live at peace with folks. Which means when there's conflict, we need to go through that little checklist in our head. Is the conflict something that I absolutely need to stand on? And when I say I stand on, not because it's right and I got to make sure that you know I'm right. I'm talking, God's word says, don't curse God. God's word says, don't murder. Or is it something that I'm just, by the way, you're going to find most of the time, it's not in that category. You're going to find most of the time it's something that you can let go. So here's a for instance. Let's say you're blessed, and you're really blessed if you have your own home in the Bay Area. And the neighbor's complaining about the length of your limbs or whatnot. When you call City Hall and you find out the length of your limbs are fine. Now, a radical believer would go to their neighbor and say, check with the city. And they say we need to be so many feet, yada, 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 yada. And so I'd like to leave it. But here's the deal. You are more important than my tree. I know this is going to sound weird, but I follow Jesus. And Jesus says, you are more important than my tree. So even though that's the law, if it'll bless you, I'll cut them back further. What would you have me do? And I'll tell you what they're going to do. Cut them back. Now, part of you, if you're like me, the hairs on your neck are standing up. And you're like, that's why we needed Jesus, y'all, because he was serious about this stuff. If we could just do this, God wouldn't have bothered sending his only son to go through the cruelty that he went through. The truth is we are powerless without him. And you experience powerless when you're trying to love that way. And just because you can't is an excuse not to try. It's just a reminder of why you need Jesus to do in you what you cannot do yourself. Live at peace with everyone. And part of that is, the heart of living in peace is that we leave revenge, anger, and payback to God. He quotes Deuteronomy 32:35, where God says, revenge is mine, payback is mine. It's one thing if like he did with the Israelites. At some point he did judgment and he called them to do that. But they weren't supposed to take that on themselves. It was a government thing, not an individual thing. Vengeance is God's. Our job is to serve mankind. Our job is, when we pull down the row, we're going the right way, and we come to the space first, and the other person zips around going the wrong way to get in front of us. Our job is to go, that sounds good in church. Chances are none of us are going to do it after. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to be like Jesus. Our goal is to learn more and more to go, yeah, but, if I do that, they'll never learn. You're right, but that's not for you to teach them. That's for God. And by the way, I hope you get some out of this. I'm really preaching to me. That's up to God. As far as it depends on you, leave room for God. Bless those that oppose you. Bless them. And then he says something interesting. He says, the result in doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Now, this statement actually is written in Proverbs chapter 25, verses 21 and 22. It comes from the Hebrew scriptures, often referred to as the Old Testament. And it's kind of a tough one. It's interpreted multiple ways because we don't use this vernacular in days. And it may refer to, there's an Egyptian tradition from way back. If you remember, through most of the time, people carried things. Actually, in a lot of the world today still, they carry things on their head. They didn't have horses and carts and cars and all the things that we have. So the easiest way is to carry things on your head. And they have a tradition, an Egyptian tradition, long-standing, in some cultures, that when you've done something wrong, they literally would put coals, a little bowl with coals in it, on their head, and they would walk through in kind of repentance, kind of saying, I was wrong. And that could very well be. The other thing is just more symbolic. It just could signify that your act of kindness increases their sense of guilt, and maybe they'll think they're sorry. The third thing is, again, through most of the time, and even in third world countries today where it's not industrialized, one of the most important things in your home was the fire, was the coals. It's what kept the house warm, and it's how you cooked your food. And you got to remember, you couldn't just go down to the local store and get matches and a lighter. It was hard to make fire. So one of the biggest blessings that you could give your neighbor was to share your coals with them, which they actually then would wrap up and take to their home. And actually, I was reading a Jewish commentary on Proverbs 21, where this is quoted from, and that's basically what it said it is that the result when your enemy doesn't just receive, not you not being mean to them, but you going out of your way to be kind to them. When they're hungry, feed them. When they're thirsty, give them. What that results in is that they receive from you the most blessed gift a neighbor can receive. The burning coals. As they take it from your home and take it to theirs. And no matter how you look and interpret that, the meaning is the same. You end up to be a blessing to them. They may repent, they may not. Listen, Jesus was kind to a lot of folks. They didn't all repent. So this isn't a guarantee. I'm not giving you the 3 steps to how to change someone. Just burn that book. It don't work. But the result is God does something. And then his summary statement to come back is overcome basically bad with good. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And in summary, bad people, bad situations, bad government, bad whatever, is to be overcome with good. Is to be overcome with good. We shouldn't spend our time thinking of revenge and ways to get back at someone or make them pay. Right? There's a difference between punishment, parents, punishment, and discipline. Punishment's where my kid did something and they embarrass me whenever I'm going to make them pay. Discipline is, that's not a good thing for them. How do I set them right? And we too aren't supposed to be we're supposed to be spending our energy praying for them. And by the way, you can't pray the way I pray sometimes. Okay, this is not the prayer. God, will you help them see that they're being an idiot and do things the way I want them to do it? No, because guess what? They're lower than me conceited prayer. The prayer is actually twofold. Lynn and I say this even about when our kids go through stuff. We say when our kids are going through something, I wonder what it is that God wanted to teach us. It's not about them. It's about what he wants to do. I wonder why God put this person in my life. So I might go before the Lord and say, God, help me learn whatever it is, the reason why you put this person in my life. But at the same time, bless them. It seems, dear God, maybe they're anxious all the time, whatever. Could you just bring peace in their life? Could you bring hope in their life? Would you reveal yourself? Pray that God bless them. And then think of ways to be a blessing. Just like some of you did with the whole gift thing this last Christmas, right? You sat down with your Christmas lists, and if you're a halfway decent gift giver, even if you're not, right? Just the pressure of having to respond to somebody else, you sat down and thought of that person. All right, what would they like? How much money am I supposed to da-da-da-da? He's saying do the same thing, but with those that are in a different camp, that persecute you, that you're your enemies. Do the same thing. Sit down and go, how could I bless them? Can I bring them breakfast? Can I clean up the copy room for them? Can I write them a note of encouragement? It's got nothing to do with deserve. If it did, then all of us will be left out of the kingdom of God. That's the point, y'all. This is the gospel, the good news of Jesus lived out. As we received, we give. In other words, this is the way that I could wrap my mind around it. No matter how sour their lemons are, we're supposed to add sugar. And the more sour it is, the more sugar it needs. That's how we change the world. Or I should say, that's how God changes the world through us. So, the charts in your notes here, the little summary statement, right? This is the difference between a counterculture community and the world that's around us. Citizens of the world say, bless those that are good to you, right? Bless those that are good to you. But followers of Jesus say, you know what? You're to bless those who persecute you. And I just want to encourage you, be careful of well-meaning Christians. We love you. And we might walk alongside of you. We may say, you know what, that husband of yours is no good. That boss of yours is terrible. That school, I can't believe that. And we may help you justify what you naturally feel, forgive us. Because we're revealing our own issues, not God's heart. God's heart is that you bless those that persecute you. How am I a blessing to them? How do I stand in contrast to that darkness? For the world, they associate with those who bring them benefit. Of course, duh. Right? The people in your camp bring you benefit. The people that are like you, maybe folks they're not in your camp in 3 other ways, but they're in your camp in 2 other ways. Great. Associate with those folks. But for a follower of Jesus, we associate with those who cost you. They got nothing to bring. Remember, Jesus told that story. He said, when you throw a party and don't invite your friends and your neighbors and your church folk. Why? Because they're going to invite you back. Jesus said, when you throw a grand party, invite those that can't pay you back. They got nothing to pay you back with. Bless those who cost you. Be at peace, the world says, with those that agree with you. Right? It's amazing how we all get together and say, why can't the world just be like us? Well, because obviously us all like each other. Right? Germany was at peace when it was at war with the rest of the world. That's not how it works. According to the gospel of Jesus Christ, we're to be at peace with everyone if we can, as far as it depends on us. It doesn't cross that line of what God says, don't do this. Right? When they lived in Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did their best to go along. As soon as that, remember this story from Daniel? As soon as he built the statue and said, worship this statue, that's where they went, sorry. Sorry, king, can't do that. They didn't live at peace. Everything else they were fine with. Until it completely, utterly violated what God said do not do. Live at peace with everyone. The world says your enemies deserve disdain and comeuppance. Right? Comeuppance is they got what they deserve. It's like that speeder. They deserve that ticket. And those, your enemies, those who stand against you, those who persecute you, those who are unreasonable, they deserve you to think that they're small, to think that they're an idiot, to think whatever. They deserve that, of course. Just call it like it is. You're just speaking the truth. Let's just hope that they lose, that something happens to their family, that they get caught, that they yada, 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 yada. That's what the world says. And when we're being like the world, that's what we say sometimes. But those followers of Jesus, the counterculture community says, when your enemies deserve is forgiveness and love. Why? Because God forgave us. God forgave us. And rather than the punishment and the disdain that we deserve, God gave us love. And that's the love we pass on to others. The world says overcome bad people by treating them the same. If that side of the political aisle are acting a certain way, well, we'll just show them. We'll call them bigger names. We'll make more fun of them. Our comedians will be funnier than their comedians. Our throwing mud will be worse than their throwing mud. And we do this, by the way, on micro level and on social media and everything too. Whereas followers of Jesus overcome bad people with ultra love. And the worse they are, the more we sit together and strategize, how can we love them even more? That is the kind of community that God has called us to be, a countercultural community that changes the world. And if you look at history, you'll find it's this kind of out-of-place love that has changed many individuals. Many people have just been hard and crusted and just mean. Haters of God, and they ran into this inexplicable love from someone and changed them. It's not a guarantee, but God does use it. Communities have been changed. As folks have gathered together and they show this ultra love, countries have been changed. Slowly, but they have been changed. This was the whole civil rights movement that was actually successful in this country. It's because folks finally stood up for what was right, but they did it with a radical love, a radical nonviolence, based on, by the way, their faith in Jesus Christ. Look it up. Educate yourself. It's what Martin Luther King Jr. preached. And it changed a country. Still more to go, but it's better than it was. And ultimately, y'all, it changed eternity. That kind of ultra love changed our eternity. And it's our thank you to God that we turn around and we pass that on to somebody else. Father God, I thank you for that kind of love. I thank you, Lord, that you didn't give us what we deserve. That when we were enemies, when we were at our worst, you left the throne of heaven, took on the form of a human being, lived among us, took our worst insults, our worst punishment, torture, even unto death, in the name of love, that we may live in eternity with you. God, we cannot do that on our own. But it is our desire, God, to be a countercultural community and to grow in that kind of love. So would you stir the Holy Spirit in us, to do in us, through us, what we cannot do on our own. Bring to mind that person, that camper, God, that we have been very unlike Christ in responding to. Take our repentance. Forgive me, God, for the way I've acted, the way I've responded to my feelings. And would you do that miraculous thing of changing my heart and showing how not only can I act towards love, but slowly but surely you may change my heart that I may actually love them. Will you do that work in the power and the name of the one who loved us first, we pray, Jesus Christ. Amen.